What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome back to Raptors Flex Plus. I am your host, Kyle, and we are here for another one. Training camp is kicking off. Now that we finally have media day out of the way, we can get back to basketball because in the next 3 weeks or so is regular season. We're going to kick that off. But in just less than a week, is preseason. So hopefully we'll be able to see some of the things that we're learning from the media day and from training camp that they want to implement for preseason so that they can practice to be ready for the regular season. All right. But before we go into whatever we're learning today at training camp, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate everybody in advance for the support because you don't know we want to build up the channel to make it, one of the better ones out here in the Raptors community. So appreciate all of y'all, right? And your boy's looking a little scruffy, man. I'm gonna see my hairdresser on Friday so that I can get a fresh us and be looking proper inside the videos. But for now, I'm do ragged up. It's about the content. Hopefully, you don't care too much about the appearance at the very moment. But nevertheless, training camp day one has kicked off from Burnaby, BC. Few things that we've learned just from additional discussions following media day. Now that we're into training camp, um, one of the things I was really happy to hear was that a lot of the players were together in the summer. You know what I mean? And when there's turnover like that, you have a brand new coach, your top leader from last year is gone in Fred VanVleet. You really want to see some of those vets get together, gather the players together, and just work together to get that chemistry going. So it was really good to hear Otto Porter talk about how the players were, together in the summer, building up some of that chemistry, and now they can kind of just hit the ground running in training camp. Um, Darko Rijakovic, our coach, Darko Rijakovic, also talked about essentially it's going to be new terminology for everyone to learn. So that's actually a really good point that needs to be factored into how we start the season, right? So you got a brand new system which comes with new verbiage, new terminology, new strategies that everyone needs to learn, right? Um, that may take some time. You know what I mean? We may see some breakdowns in coverage defensively, or, maybe someone throws a ball out of bounds because someone was supposed to cut towards the basket, but instead they back cut. Different things like that can happen from just not having that terminology down and not having that chemistry in place yet. But good to hear that everyone is receptive to it so far. And again, we kind of have to take some of this with a grain of salt, also, right? Like, what are they gonna say? Like, if mans really aren't receptive to it, like, yeah, the players are not, um, you know, they're not doing what we're asking them to do. Like, no one's gonna come out and say that. So a lot of it is just, the right thing to say, which is kind of what you have to do in this situation. That's why, as fans, we need to kind of take this with a grain of salt. But that's okay. That's okay. There were some things that Darko continued to talk about into training camp from media day that it's sounding like these are going to be the principles of the offense. He talked about playing fast and having 1 through 4 being interchangeable. And I assume that's on the offensive end and the defensive end. Because on the offensive end, they're saying that they want to get some action through the 5 at the elbow with Jakob Pertl and Precious Achua. I'm struggling on my man's name. But basically, and then you have the other 4 players being interchangeable, pick and rolls, moving, getting to open spots, those types of things. Um, it kind of reminds me as to how Nick Nurse used Marc Gasol, right? Remember when Mark was at the elbow and he kind of directed traffic? We're getting action off of Mark and he's finding the open guy. So really what we're about to learn is how good of a passer is Jakob Pertl, how good of a passer is Precious Achua, right? Because if that's the type of action that they want to run, it sounds like they're going to be putting a lot of emphasis on the center having high IQ, playing with high IQ, similar to what you'd see from a Jokic. Now, mind you, we do not have a Nikola Jokic on this roster. It'd be beautiful if we did, but we don't. But if you get even a fraction of um, the production from a pass standpoint, from a screening standpoint, things that you really want your big men to be strong with, then I think that it's very encouraging to hear that, this is kind of what the plan is. It's now really just about the execution, right? So good to hear about that. It'll be interesting to see how that translates to the court once the games start up, right? Um, One thing that Coach Ryakovich was saying, they were asking him about, what is something that you were surprised about? And he didn't say, he said, I'm not really surprised about anything, but he's really happy to see that players are showing care, taking care, and paying attention to detail, right? And that the coaches are explaining why they may need to do something, why you may need to make a pass, why this strategy is like this, and so forth. So if there's a lot of detail in this system um, that is being implemented by Coach Ryakovich, and on day one of training camp, we're seeing guys coming in focused, ready, determined, understanding what the goal is as a team. That is very encouraging as a team overall. And that's really what you want to hear. Now we just need to see it, right? And let's lastly on maybe the training camp situation. Dennis Schroeder finally back now with the team after having a summer where Germany won gold at the FIBA World Championships. And, he mentioned how he kind of took a little bit of time off after the tournament because there was a lot of, I guess, work leading up to the tournament and then playing over the summer. Um, and if I'm not mistaken, he also played with the Lakers last year, which played into the Western Conference Finals. So that's a lot of basketball. Good to hear that he took some time out to kind of rejuvenate, get himself ready, and just get ready for the season because now you're starting back with a new team. So again, new terminology. Now I know that he was with Coach in OKC, but Coach also mentioned how he's learned new things since the last time that him and Dennis were on the same team together. So, um, really good really good to see Dennis back. Coach mentioned how they're going to try to find him a lot of creative ways to get him the ball, and just use him, etc. Right? So just more on Coach. Um, I really wanted to talk about the human aspect of Coach Ryakovich. Just anyone that you've talked to so far. And it was really, really just a breath of fresh air just to hear how much of a player's coach he is and how much he really cares about the players, not even just professionally, but personally. Um, and this is no knock on anything that happened last year or the last couple of years with our previous coach, but it sounds like maybe those relationships maybe weren't built to the point where if there was strain, which there was near the end of last season, it wasn't able to overcome that strain. So really good to hear that, coach is really resonating with the players. Like even Dennis Schroeder came out and said, yeah, we know each other's families. My wife likes his wife. I'm like, what? People really know each other for real, eh? So, you know, that's really something that you don't hear too often between a coach and player. And maybe it happens a lot, but we just don't hear about it because they don't talk about it. but nevertheless, I found that like extremely interesting. And then you have Gary Trent Jr. yesterday, or maybe the day before, sorry, at Media Day, saying that he's spoken to Coach Ryakovich more in like the last, you know, this short period of time that they've been together than like any coach that he's ever like. That doesn't. I'm not too sure about that, like Gary. Like, I mean, but at the end of the day, if you just read between the lines, he's basically saying that they're having a lot of discussion about professional and personal, and it sounds like they're really like coach. You know what I mean? If he's a player's coach and the players like you, then maybe they'll be willing to go that extra mile a little bit more to play harder for you. You know what I mean? There's also the flip side of that too. Like you don't want to be too buddy friend. You got to be able to see the line between, you know, okay, I'm the coach. This is about ball right now, and you need to respect me as the coach as well. And there's a respect back that the coaches have to have for the players. So it's a relationship that needs to work not just personally but professionally, right? And that's why it was very good to hear that Dennis mentioned that the coach has a history of holding players accountable back when he was in OKC, well, back when they were in OKC together. So that's something that I want to see. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the lines get blurred a little bit when you have a really good relationship between coach and player, and the players feel like they could just do a little 1-2 more than what they would normally do with the coach. Um, so it'll be very important that coaching staff be able to hold those players accountable. And it sounds like that's something that the coaches don't really come into it with an ego. Like when you hear the coach say, like, yeah, we're gonna watch the film from day one of training camp, see what we can learn. Like, I love that. Right? You should be watching, like, coaches and players should be watching film all the time, right? Because there's always something that you may see or may not see. And I know that the season is long. You got back to backs. You got to strategize for the teams. You have scouts in place in order to do that. But you still want to be able to watch that film to critique yourself sometimes, to see how you can improve. Because sometimes a scout or a player or another coach may not see something the exact same way that you see it, right? It's just human nature that we're just more critical of ourselves than others may be critical of us. You know what I mean? So any opportunity that y'all get to watch film, I think y'all should definitely do that. And I think the team will be better for it. All right. Now, also, while I was scrolling through the internet, trying to figure out what else is popping out here in Raptorland, I know Fred VanVleet is no longer with the Raptors, but the Houston Rockets did have their media day as well, and they asked him about how tough of a decision was it to leave Toronto and come to Houston, and Fred gave a pretty good answer. No hate. Everything felt like love. But basically he said, it was difficult. It was tough because they took pride. He took pride in winning, playing for that culture, the organization, and he grew up through that organization, all those types of things. And to leave there was a tough decision. Understandable, right? That's like, you spend your whole life, you know, just in a certain city, right? And then, you get a job opportunity. Like just putting it on like a regular human level, right? Not NBA guys. Like, you know, all of a sudden you gotta change cities, you far away from your family, you gotta think about kids in school, like blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that go into that decision. So it's not strictly just about basketball in terms of him leaving Toronto to go to Houston, right? You get the bread, better opportunities for your family, etc. But he said it was very tough and it was very difficult to tell Masai for those very same reasons as to why or that he was leaving. You know what I mean? And um he then went on to say that, they're always going to be family and the organization is tight knit. And because they won a championship together, those relationships and those bonds will never break. So, shout out to Fred VanVleet. I don't think there's anything more that we need to touch on with VanVleet now that he's no longer a Raptor. But I just wanted to at least just touch on that because I thought it was important that some Raptors fans hear that. And if you want to hear it for yourself, I think I saw it on the TSN Twitter or X page or whatever it is now. So go over there and check it out. It was one of the interviews from the Houston Rockets Media Day. And to close things up on this video, I don't know if y'all saw this, but basically there's this photo floating around, and I'm gonna try to put it up here on the screen, of what the Raptors City Edition looks like. And I want to get some thoughts on what y'all think about it. I mean, I think it's kind of tough still. And sometimes the internet gets this stuff wrong, eh? Not that the jersey is not the right jersey or something, but it just looks better sometimes when it's on the court. But this one looks fresh. It's a all gold with the black trim. It looks like there's some black like Raptors stripes, like how the purple jerseys are, and Toronto across the chest with the proper arc, like the proper arc, not the chevron, like the proper arc across the chest. Like, I like it. I love it. I think that jersey is fresh, yo. I want to see what it looks like, obviously, on the court and in a game, but I think it looks tough still. I think it looks tough, right? It's definitely better than this chevron crap that we got going on. Like, we won a championship in the North jerseys, the city ones that had the red with the white chevron, and then they just went chevron happy, guy. Do not like our current set of jerseys. The ones that we had from the Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan era, like those should be our jerseys still. There's no reason that we had to go away from those. But nevertheless, at least we get to see the Raptors in those jerseys less now that we have a proper looking city edition. So interested to see what that looks like when it actually drops and they wear them on the court. Yo, that's the OVO city edition. All right. So that wraps things up for me today. This video is a lot shorter. And again, please like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate all of y'all. You know the flex. Your boy Kyle, and I'm out.